time to get inspired, develop, and improve your yoga knowledge in English. You're listening to Your Yoga in English, a podcast for non-native English-speaking yogis and yoga teachers that want to practice or teach yoga worldwide. My name is Annie, the founder of Enga Unite, and here to guide you on your way to become the confident, effective, and knowledgeable English-speaking yogi you want to be. Today is the first interview of a series of interviews with expert teachers or expert speakers. So it's a series of interviews in which we speak about yoga teaching skills and how to teach yoga in English. And I'm very excited to welcome Gwen to our first one. Maybe you've seen Gwen before because Gwen has been with us to speak about how to remember and include anatomy in your yoga classes. But today we're going to speak about themes that you can use for your yoga classes in English. So Gwen, thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Very good. I'm always pleased to have a chat with you.
Me too. I'm really, really excited about this. First of all, because I'm speaking to you, but also because I really, really like the theme of our chat today. And I asked you because not long ago you published a guide on theming your yoga classes, and I thought it was really interesting. And I think it will be really interesting for the people that are in our community to find out more about this, because among yoga teachers, especially when they first start out, theming seems a little bit scary because we don't really know where to start or how to do it. And I think you've got all the answers. You've got all the answers.
I hope.
All right. So let's start with who you are. Tell us a little bit about who you are, because you're from France, you live in Bali, and you're leading yoga teacher trainings there. How you rolled into that?
So exactly this. I am French and I live in Nusa Lembongan, which is close to Bali, a smallest island. So yeah, I mainly actually just speak English. I only speak French to my son that is 2 years old for the language. I ended up here completely by opportunities. And I think that's something that I really like in life, is seeing what is happening rather than trying to make things happen, you know. And that's how I ended up managing Yoga Bliss, so this amazing studio in Bali, and that I'm doing now teacher trainings here since 2016, and leading yoga retreats and workshops, and especially working with yoga teachers, either training yoga teachers or working with yoga teachers after they're certified.
Exactly. And just because of the community here, many of them have done the yoga teacher training in another language. And we spoke to you about this before, but for the people that haven't seen you, how was it for you to do your yoga teacher training in English? Because you're originally from France, so French is your first language, but you also did your training in English, right?
Yeah, I think for me it made sense because my main teachers are speaking English, and so I learned it with the English words. And it's then later, after learning it in French, when I came back in English, when I came back in French, that I found it was very difficult to hear words in another language. So I completely get it for people that do it the other way around. It's true that once you get your habit, I think it's difficult to change it. So it's difficult for me to teach in French, actually.
Yes, I understand.
Your trainings it made sense for me to do it in English.
Exactly. It's funny that you say that it's difficult for you to teach in French, even though French is your first language. And I spoke to other teachers about that not long ago. And I think it really is because, like you said, you're not used to it. You're not used to hearing it or to speaking about these topics in that language. So even when you are fluent in that language, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can teach in that language, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really funny. It's funny how these things work. So tell us a little bit about the trainings that you do then. You train teachers, how to become teachers. What styles do you focus on?
So we have been changing like how the trainings are. And so at the beginning, we went Ashtanga and Yin teacher trainings to now is a multi-style training, because what we have seen with time is actually a lot of teachers do not know which style they want to teach, or they don't practice just one style and they want to teach different styles. And so we decided to just do one training where we teach multi-style. So we do Ashtanga and Yin 1 week, and then we do Vinyasa and we do Restorative, and then everyone teach a little bit of what they want to focus on. So multi-style.
Yeah, that's really nice. And do you also then, because we're going to speak about themes, do you also teach them how to use themes in these styles? Or do you focus on the skills rather?
Yeah, so we do teach a trainer. And so I focus on the Ashtanga and Restorative. And so in Ashtanga, it's a set sequence. So there is no themes, but you can always have an intention that makes the class different, I think. But definitely for Restorative, and then Lisa for Yin and Vinyasa, we do teach how to sequence, and using theme is definitely a part of that.
Yes, really nice, really nice. So why would you use a theme in your yoga classes?
Why would I?
I think that we want to do, or why is it something that you do?
Yeah, I think it is such a great way to actually make more sense in the practice. Sometimes a lot of people are wondering what is the difference between a fitness class and a yoga class, or depending on the style or where you teach, if you teach in a gym, to make some differences. Yoga, we know it as yoga teachers, is about more than that. And sometimes having a simple theme can really help to make the class more meaningful. So I will say definitely to bring something more meaningful for the students.
Absolutely. I think there's many different benefits. And I also, because I'm very curious always, is there other negative effects or aspects of using themes? Are there any cons?
I don't think so, because I think the using theme is like having an anchor. So even if you didn't plan your sequence or anything, just having a theme or an intention, you can have a beautiful class, even if you didn't plan everything before. So I cannot see what will be not beneficial on having a theme or an intention.
Exactly. Are there specific people or groups or students that more benefit more from theming your classes, or is it good for everyone?
I think it's really good for everyone, because you just focus on different things, because beginners might be, the theme will just be completely different, and not more simple, but just different. Maybe that someone is advanced, where you can touch something that is more subtle in the practice, as they're not in this gross discovery of their body, and they already know the movement and their breath. So themes could be different for different levels.
Yeah, exactly. And you already said, because you teach different styles at the trainings, can you use themes for every style or type of yoga, or do they only go with specific styles?
I think like the style with set sequences, it will not be so much about a theme, but rather maybe an intention. Because for example, let's say we take an Ashtanga class which has sequence. It's more maybe, okay, the intention today might be to focus more on your feet or your breath. So you could have something like that, let's say, but it's not really a theme. Rather than if you teach Vinyasa or Yin, let's say, or Restorative or Hatha, you could have a bigger theme and different intention.
Exactly. I find it so fascinating. I really, really love theme in my classes. I've got a whole notebook of different themes for everything. And their own sequence and information and quotes and everything. So could you give us some example of inclusive and accessible yoga themes that we can use straight away?
So I think when you say like inclusive, and I really think of something that we speak a lot at the moment, which is acculturation and different gender and trauma. And I think it's very important to know the people that you're teaching, to be inclusive of them, because inclusivity can be so big. So I will say that simply starting with theme like compassion, or joy or fear. That could be feelings. These are things that we all go through. And so I think it's easy to relate wherever you come from, whatever you identify yourself with, any country, like you can relate to having fear, compassion, or joy, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. It is true. And I think it's a hot topic at the moment. There's a lot of people that speak about inclusivity, and it's very broad because there's so many ways to include or not include anyone. Do you know of any themes that are not inclusive? Just by definition, these themes you can't use for every class or for every public yoga class.
Yeah, I actually had to think about it, and just because you asked me before, just to say, because it looks like I'm not thinking about it right now. And actually, I think that all the theme can be inclusive, and it's more about communication. And I think that as yoga teacher, but when we speak in the world in general, communication can really be a tool to either connect with other people, but it can also be isolating because it will be more about the cues and the words that we use. Mm-hmm. If I say in a yoga class, oh, you cannot do this, so try this one. Mm-hmm. This will be not inclusive, for example. And that's a bit pointing at someone. And it's not really wrong, and some people will feel very comfortable doing it or receiving these words, but maybe some no. So I will say inclusivity is more about communication, I think, and the intention behind our words.
Yes, absolutely. There's so much that I think we don't really realize because we have used it so much or we have heard it so much, and now it's our normal. But if you analyze those words, and this is especially when you speak about inclusivity as a whole, there are so many words or expressions or ways of speaking that are really, really excluding people in a way, even if your intention is not to do that. It can come across that way. So when you first start out as a yoga teacher, what are some themes that you recommend using? What are some good starting points?
So as we did speak about anatomy last time, and I think because I teach anatomy, and I think anatomy is such a great subject because especially if you have a bit of time to research as a new yoga teacher, if you have a bit of time, then choose something that maybe you don't know everything about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like this also make your knowledge better, and then you feel good because you're sharing this knowledge with all your students. So something like anatomy can help you actually to learn about anatomy by sequencing, theming a class about the shoulder or the back or the hips. So I think taking the theme to be simple can really be good as a new teacher. If you don't have the time, simply theme something that you know. If you are a fan of the cycle of the moon, you know everything about the new moon and the full moon, then use that as a theme. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you don't know really well about it and you don't find it interesting, then don't choose that. Yeah,
exactly. I love what you said. Teach what you know. Teach the things that you are interested in and you know about. There often is a pitfall, and I think because as yoga teachers, we feel the pressure to know everything and to be good at everything. And especially when it comes to anatomy. So we teach things that we feel really uncomfortable with just because we want to prove to ourselves or maybe even the students that we have that knowledge. Is there anything that you would say to this or say to the people that feel this way?
I think it's normal. And I know sometimes it's difficult because we see all these amazing teachers that knows everything. But first, I don't think that any yoga teacher knows everything. Every yoga teacher has strength. And it takes so long. So when you see someone actually that knows a lot, maybe seeing that as, whoa, this person has studied a lot. And you will also study a lot. And it just takes, and now it's such a beautiful time that we have access to so much information. You can just Google something, and by a bit verifying where you are looking in sources, you can actually find good information very quickly. So I think to not be afraid of making mistake and of not knowing. If you want to know something, make sure that you have access to other yoga teachers or simply looking on the internet to learn more if you have the time.
Absolutely. All right. I want to dive into an example.
Yeah.
Dive into an example because we now know what to theme or what things to include, maybe the words to use or not to use. You gave the example of anatomy and backbends, or using backbends as a theme for your yoga classes. What are some elements to take into account when you work with a theme like this?
So I think when you work on a theme that is anatomy based, then it's to first look at the position of the body that you will do, especially if you do a peak pose. Because for example, if you do camel, let's say will be your peak pose. Even if the back is doing a back bend, the arms are in this position, for example, right? Then if your peak pose is Urdhva Dhanurasana, your arms are like that. So it will be a different sequence. So I will say that first of all is to look at that for your sequence. But for your theme is to look at what emotions or what ideas come with it. So for example, when we look at back bends, sometimes it can be about the heart chakra. It can also be about opening, but back bend are also well known for anger, because sometimes when you learn to do back bend, you can feel very angry in your back bends, and that's emotion that can come. So you could theme on these emotions that are chakras or subtle elements that are linked to this theme.
Mm-hmm. And it's really good what you're saying, because backbends have so many connotations. So it could be anger, but it could also be a heart opener. So there's all these different emotions. One thing I hear very often is that people think when they have one theme, they can only use one sequence with one theme or one way of going around it. But actually, now that you're saying this, it means that you can use the same sequence, but theme it something differently each time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a sustainable teaching, sustainable way of teaching.
Yeah. It would be difficult to always be so creative. And I think there is also like this at the moment, like yoga teachers that feel like they always need to be so creative. But yoga is not about being creative, right? Usually when we try to help people by using yoga, it's not to be creative.
No. And actually these people and yourself as well benefit from this repetition, because there's just so much that goes on, and every time we can find something else or find something new in the themes and the sequence, but also in the asanas themselves. So yes. So you said looking at emotions, looking at how the body moves and what specific body movements are going on in the peak pose. How do you then choose other asanas or your sequence?
Okay, so for this, I would say to look at the pose. Yeah, so example, if we said camel, will be to look at the position of the arms. So they're like this. So to do position like different asana with the arms like that. To do different asana with back bends, the legs are bent. So to do poses where the hamstring contracts. So I will say to just look at the pose and to try to find poses that have some elements, one or two elements, yeah, to slowly build up to the peak pose.
Exactly. I think in my first training, they were speaking about cousins of the asanas because they all look very similar. Do you have any techniques as to how to find these? Because I can imagine when you first start out, it's very difficult to actually recognize what's happening or the similarities in these asanas.
Yeah, I think for sequencing, which is such a big subject also by itself, I think like really to look at the position of the arms and everything, and then some poses. Yeah, and if you are not sure about what pose can come here, that's how also, and you don't remember anything, that's how internet is so great for that. Yeah, because for example, if you put back bend with shoulder extension, which is this, you will have other one probably with that, okay, that you can include in your warm-up or in your path to this peak pose that you have.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Are there any books that you recommend, or maybe things that you tell your teachers to get?
For sequencing, I think we need to to have a clear method on how do you want to sequence is really helpful, because there was so many different yoga teachers, and the teachers that I work with, I want them to create their own templates, because the templates that I see a lot of time out there, I don't like them myself. So I will not want to practice with it. So I think you need to do your own with your own style. For books, for theming, definitely the best book ever that I found is The Language of Yin. That's Lisa that teach with me in the training that teach Yin. She has a yogic book club that you can find also on Facebook, and they read book every few months. And the first one was this, and that's at this time I discovered it. And it's so great, because even if you don't teach Yin, there is so many things. Absolutely. And they even give you poses and what to say. So if you don't have any idea, you can definitely use that.
Yes, I completely agree. I love that book. I use it all the time.
Yeah, it's so great.
It really is really good. Actually, this is a really good point, because now we kind of have our theme. We know what poses to include or what sequence to script for. How do you then choose quotes or affirmations or maybe poetry, written work?
So yeah, I will say that one of the things that is good is to, when you see a quote or a text that you like, to save it. Yeah, and to either have some sort of notes somewhere, either written down or maybe in your computer or in your phone, and then you can find them because they made sense to you at one point. Yeah. So that will be more relevant than simply Googling quote for back bend or quote for heart opener, because there is thousands and thousands of them. Yeah. So I will say if you didn't start, then of course you can Google that. But if not, finding some notes in the books that you read or posts that you've seen, even on Instagram, you can just use the saved, and then you can do a little gallery in your saved, you can do a gallery just for quotes, and then you have all these quotes that you can check again.
Yes, that's great advice. Really nice advice. I'm thinking, because we're with the example of the backbends, and backbends often require, or don't require necessarily, but I would recommend using props. How do you choose what to use and when to use it?
I think props are great when they are available. And I think we should definitely include it, especially if we're trying to be inclusive. And I think it's simply on being clear. And if you look at this big pose and you have to choose, let's say, what I recommend usually to my teachers is 3 modification. And I'm not saying one is not the peak pose, because one might be, yeah, but to have 3 variation of this pose that you call your peak pose, and to have one maybe that at least need some prop, and to have that at the start, and to show people how to use it, because so many times like, okay, take 2 blocks, and then no one speak about it during the whole class. So you have these 2 blocks that are near you, but you never actually use them. So I will say to use something that is relevant, and it will depend what is the peak pose.
Exactly. And there's a big discussion. There's a big discussion on whether to include music or not. What is your opinion on this?
Again, I will say that, so what I like is with theming, I also like to work with intention, because I also find that themes are so big that if you have different intention, then you can reuse your sequences and give really something personal.
Yeah.
So depending on your intention, music or not is good. For example, if your intention is about the withdrawal of the senses, or listening to your breath, or maybe having no music is more relevant than having music. So I will say that it is really, it depends. And I think all of us, with time in the practice, depending if you practice since 1 year, 5, 10, 15, you will go through all the stages of I like music, I hate music. It depends. So I think as yoga teacher, that's why it's important to not try to fit everyone. Yeah, you have to do what is good for you, what is your own style and what you like. I think there is one yoga style that is no music, is restorative yoga. This is no music. Because one of the principles of restorative yoga is silence. so that will not make it. Yeah. But all the other style, it really depends. I would say Ashtanga also, it's very much about the breath and listening to your ujjayi breathing. So it's a bit difficult to do that if you're having music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. I'm in the stage of no music at the moment. I really feel it's distracting. If you've got a sense, or maybe if you really like music and you've got a feel for the beat, you try to keep up with the rhythm of the music, which is actually really disturbing sometimes. Yeah, but I agree. It's in stages. Always do what feels right for you. So let's summarize them, because we've got a lot of things here. Oh, there's one last question I have, because studios are opening. Are you teaching them in person already or again?
Well, I was actually since June last year. Okay. But now since this month in July, we closed because that's the first big wave that we have here.
Oh, no. So you're a little later.
We're a bit late.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. All right. So my question about that is, according to your theme, what other types of elements could you include?
What do you mean by element?
For example, oils or props or decoration. I've seen people bringing in, I don't know, statues or like little dolls, stuff, decoration.
Yeah. I think that's exactly like theme. You can make it so little and you can make it so big, you know. And for example, if you organize a yoga class for a wedding, you know, and they're all going to a yoga class after, your theme will be big. It will not be subtle, and there will be a lot of decoration, and you will talk a lot about it, and you will probably have music, and it will be very different. So I think it depends of you as a teacher and what you like. Mm-hmm. It is true also to how much traditional do you want to be. Because of course, one of the principles of being in the yoga practice, we say it's to be steady and comfortable, but it's also often about getting rid of distraction. Mm-hmm. And sometimes having music or smell can be distraction. Mm-hmm. So even like visually seeing, for example, a statue and you feel horrified by this statue. Imagine every time you do sun salutation and you look at it, you know. So I think it's why like it's so personal. And as a yoga teacher, I really, really want to emphasize that you don't have to please everyone. So do the things you like, put the music or not the music. And a lot of people will say, what you do is yoga, what you do is not yoga. Everyone has an opinion. So I think as long as you find your tribe and you're teaching from your heart to the people that are willing to learn and to practice with you, then you're doing something right, you know, if they come back. So if you have intent, you don't. I think it's not important. Just stay true to your own belief.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's amazing that you said that. I think it's really something a lot of new teachers, especially new teachers, struggle with, because we want to please everyone and we're new to it and it's maybe a little bit uncomfortable. So yeah, stay true to yourself and what you like. So let's summarize, or maybe get a little bit of a summary. What 3 key things make a good sequence?
Okay. So intentional is you need to be aware of what you're doing and to have an intention in your theme, not just throwing something. So intentional, relevant for your student, because if you're teaching something and it's completely irrelevant for the group of people that you teach, there is no point. Mm-hmm. And simple, something simple. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Very nice. Really, really nice. Are there any other tips that you have for teachers?
I think if you feel that you're overwhelmed with theming, it's to really just focus on what you know. Mm-hmm. You might think you don't know anything, but if you did it 200 hours, you know a lot of things. Yeah. And just go back in your notes and you will see one of the limbs and you will be like, okay, that's my theme, for example. And you already have notes And so you can talk about it. So it doesn't have to take you a lot of time. If you have a lot of time, then take this time to research. But really understand that it's up to you. There is no obligation.
Yeah, amazing. And in the meantime, Gwen, where can we find you? What are you up to these days? Because I'm in your Facebook group as well, and I know there's an amazing program going on. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have a mentorship program for yoga teachers now. And it is a program that is not just an online course, or it is not a teacher training. It is a program for teachers that want to start their own business and want to grow that, and something that they want on their own. So something that is authentic to them. And so what we work on is really on refining those teaching skills that we're talking about, sequencing, cueing, theming, but also who you are as a yoga teacher, because all have different styles. And then we work on your brand, establishing your community, like on social media or your newsletter, and how to market your offers. Because I see that I have trained hundreds of yoga teachers. I can see now actually that the missing piece is a little bit the after. Yeah. So after, how do I start my business if I don't want to teach 5 classes a day? And if you followed me a bit, I talk about it because I have done teaching 5 classes a day and I don't recommend it. It is very tiring. You don't give yourself well, you lose your yoga practice. So why you practice yoga? So this mentorship program is really about that. And we have a couple of coaching sessions per week. And I think that's definitely the amazing part where we sequence when yoga teachers need it. Oh, it is super lovely.
Yeah, it's really nice. I've seen a little bit about it. Gwen, what is your group called if people want to find you there?
Elevate Your Yoga Career.
Exactly. Amazing. Gwen, is there anything else you would like to say?
No, I will say for all the yoga teachers, trust in yourself.
Amazing. Very good. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really enjoyed chatting to you.
Thank you, Annie.
Another time, a real, real big honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. I will see you all on Thursday. On Thursday, we're back with another interview. And this time about combining your talents. So combining your yoga services with other talents that you have. I'll see you then.
Wonderful.
If you feel inspired and like what you learned today, I'd love for you to leave a review. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us at Enga Unite. Join the community and become a member of the Teach Yoga in English support group on Facebook. Practice, rest, repeat, and all will come.